Yeah.
We want the stuff off Peacock and go to Netflix so then we can cancel our subscriptions to Peacock because we pay for too much stuff. Can we do that at any point here?
Call Netflix and push for them when the PLE deal comes up. Right. So
when is the PLE deal up?
This year.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. Let's put all of our content in one place. Please, for the love of God, I don't need 12 different streaming services. Put it on Netflix and the world will rejoice. That was Triple H on SI Media, that's Sports Illustrated, with Jimmy Traina, doing an interview on the big Netflix debut that debuts tonight as I record this, as you are watching this, hopefully. If not, Netflix Raw was the shit, right? Am I right? It was dope if you watched it already. It doesn't matter where have I been. It's been gone for a little bit. I am back here in the seat again. If you are curious about where I have been, it doesn't matter. We're not talking about that here, but I'll leave a video on the end caps who kind of explain things if you're a long-time subscriber and you're wondering. But if you're new here, let's get into the conversation because Triple H talked a lot of Netflix with Jimmy Traina, got into all the dirty deets. And one of those details I was always curious about, and I'm sure a lot of you others would be as well, is when they go to Netflix, are they still going to be this PG/PG-13 type content, or are they going to lean into the more edgier stuff like they did with The Rock when he returned, and just blood everywhere and F-bombs and just the unrestricted nature, the unrestricted environment of Netflix? Will Raw change? Well, Triple H addressed that in his interview with Jimmy Traina. Check out this clip.
There are people expecting this now because you're on Netflix. I think you've talked about this maybe in other interviews where it's going to be the F word for 3 hours and puppies are back and all that stuff. So if you want to just set the record straight and give people a little...
This will be family-friendly programming, just like it's always been, right? PG programming. To me, the whole I need somebody to swear in a movie to make the movie good. Like I just don't. I get it. There's certain genres of things that need that or that are good with that, but I've seen just as many comedians that are clean that are, crazy funny as I have. Ones that are laced with profanity. I think that all of that is given way more importance. It's a rating and a brand that makes you feel a certain way, so people get excited about that. But we want to be very conscious about making this what we just talked about, which is you're not hopefully on there watching with your kid and be like, oh God, why am I showing my kid here? And I don't, I shouldn't be exposing him to this. Are we going to push the envelope a little bit sometimes here and there? Sure. But nothing that's going to turn you off as a viewer. The other aspects of it, right, of the right word used in the right scenario can be crazy impactful.
Right.
The moment where Rock busted Cody open and you were shocked by that was very impactful and told a very different story than what we normally tell. If you do that all the time, it means nothing.
So they're sticking basically with what they're at right now, which is fine. I'm perfectly okay with that. I don't need this edgy attitude era. As long as they're willing to lean into edgier type stuff once in a while when the storyline calls for it, which Triple H has shown that he's willing to do. We've seen blood on WWE TV now several times, but only like a handful of times since Triple H has taken over. It's been more, but it hasn't been so much more that it's like lost its oomph, and that's the whole point of it, as Triple H explained. The more that you do that stuff, the more it becomes a crutch and the more that it loses its effect. Suddenly, if somebody's calling you a fucker, well, if they're calling you a fucker on every episode, fucker doesn't really have that punch that it should, But if I call you a fucker and you've never heard that before on Raw, well, damn. That has a little bit of power now, doesn't it? So I like that. I don't think Raw wrestling ever should be for the little kids. I know I kind of grew up in that era of the cartoon wrestlers. You know, I grew up on Ultimate Warrior and Big Boss Man and Jake the Snake and all that stuff, into the garbage men and the hockey players and baseball players and all that weird shit that WWE tried to do. I don't want it that kid friendly, but I also don't need it to be the Attitude Era. I don't need to see puppies. We got Pornhub, guys. See people thirsting over people wrestling ladies on the wrestling TV and stuff. It's like, guys, just because they're going to Netflix doesn't mean we're going to get bra and panties matches anymore. And are you that desperate and hard up that you need wrestling for bra and panties? At least back in the Attitude Era days, we didn't necessarily have a Pornhub to go look shit up on, right? We barely had an internet at the time. Now, don't worry about it. Don't need the swears. Don't need extreme violence. Extreme violence when it's called for. Blood, a little bit of weaponage. I like that kind of stuff. That is what I want to see, but that's just me. That's just my personal taste. I know there are a lot of people out there that love them some Attitude Era and just want to see WWE go full choppy PP and all of that. I hear you. I feel you. I just don't think that that's necessarily the way to go. But bust it out when you need to. Absolutely. Triple H also got into the runtime of Monday Night Raw. Another fascinating question that I was curious about. Everybody kind of assumes, they're going to be 3 hours on Netflix now, or maybe they're dropping down to 2 hours because they don't need that third hour. USA Network loves their 3-hour wrestling. SmackDown just went to 3 hours because USA Network owns it now. And they want a 3-hour wrestling show. They've always wanted a 3-hour wrestling show. They were the ones who initially proposed it back in the day when Raw went to 3 hours. And everybody hated it, but it dragged on and it had tons of filler and it didn't matter. Triple H addresses that. Are we going to be 3 hours? Or are we going to be 2 hours? Are we going to be somewhere in between or none of the above? Check out this clip.
For anyone listening who may not be sure of what's going on, Monday Night Raw on Netflix, it's going to be 3 hours every Monday, correct?
It'll be flexible. Let's just say.
What does that mean?
It'll be flexible in that I don't think necessarily the time constraints of network television or cable television apply. It's a slightly different form. It's a slightly different platform, right? So
right.
I think much like many shows, whether dramas, whether whatever, but episodic shows, they have the ability to do whatever the show needs to have done. So if this episode needs to be an hour, great, it's an hour. If this next episode needs to be 42 minutes, it's 42 minutes. It's what makes for the best product. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to be 42 minutes one week, but clearly we'll deliver the product in a way that is best for Netflix and for their business model and what is best for our storytelling.
So do you have, if you had a guess and say on average, each episode will be X amount of time, do you have that or you don't even know what that
we have averages, but for me, the perfect showtime, somewhere in that 2.5 hour range. We'll have a little bit more freedom in the format here. And I think we'll have a little bit more freedom to say if 2 hours, is not enough time to get everybody in the show, but sometimes 3 hours, you can be in a position where that something in the show feels like, well, did you need that in the show? Or could that have been pushed to next week? Or was that really important that you had to get that in there? Sometimes I don't want to say filler because I never wanted anybody to feel like they're filler.
Again, I feel like that's perfect timing for wrestling. I think Triple H is actually absolutely right on the money here. A 3-hour show tends to be a little bit long. It drags. You feel it, especially with commercials and stuff. And as Triple H said, a lot of times with that 3-hour show, it will have fluff. He didn't want to come right out and say it was fluff or filler, but it's fluff and filler. doesn't need to happen. You know, there's random matches that were pointless, matches that went on too long that didn't need to, random angles and backstage segments, and lots of shit to just make sure we meet that 3-hour window. On the other hand, 2 hours, not necessarily enough. It's a nice action-packed, tight TV show for sure. But, you know, when you watch 2-hour Raws back in the day, or even SmackDown, it does kind of feel like you're kind of cramming all the stuff in as much as you can, and maybe some matches didn't get to go on as long as they wanted to, and maybe something had to be left off because there just wasn't time for it. All of these things are going out the window as it comes to Netflix, and Triple H said it'll be flexible. He says his sweet spot between 2.5 and 3 hours, and I happen to agree with that, actually. Flexible look, you know, people kind of wonder what that looks like. Watch any streaming show ever. None of them. You watch Game of Thrones, you watch fucking Penguin, you watch any of these streaming shows. I don't fucking know. I'm just trying to pull stuff out of my head. You watch a streaming show, they're all, without exception, they're all random ass times. You know, go to the episode list. One, if it's a half-hour show, there's one that's 27 minutes, there's one that's 34 minutes, there's one that's 40 minutes. You watch an hour-long Penguin show, they shoot for about an hour, give or take. Flexible, right? You have that privilege when you're streaming. They're going to shoot for 2.5 to 3 hours, and if they don't need the full 3 hours, they won't do it. If they need more than 2.5 hours, they will. So it's there. I expect to see varied run times, but it should be somewhere in there, which I do believe is the sweet spot. That's, you know, after 3 hours, wrestling just gets a little long in the tooth, and you kind of start looking at the clock and wondering, when is this shit going to end? But 2 hours goes by fast. But what are your thoughts? Triple H laid a lot out in this interview. I highly recommend you check it out. I put a link to it down in the description below to watch the full thing. It's very informative. Triple H is a great interview. He's just, you know, no ego there. He's very just open and conversational and just willing to get into the details and just have a good conversation. And I thought this was very informative, mostly about the Netflix debut, but there's some other stuff in there too. But I gave you the key takeaways here. Let me know your thoughts down in those comments below. Are you watching Raw tonight? If you're watching this on Monday afternoon, morning, sometime-ish. If you already, you know, if you're watching this after Raw has aired, what did you think of the Raw debut? I'm excited. This is a big deal. This is a big deal for WWE. It's a big deal for Netflix. Netflix, you know, Raw, WWE brings an audience with them. There will be an uptick in subscribers for wrestling fans that have not yet subscribed to Netflix, which, does anybody not subscribe to Netflix? Some people might do the churn thing, you know, where you do a month or two and watch everything you want to watch and then cut it out for a month or two. And people do that, or they'll, you know, rotate streaming services. But I think this will be good for Netflix, and more so, this will be better for WWE. They're going to be in, you know, it's funny because people were like, and I'm wrapping this up. Don't worry. I know I'm going long here. People were like, oh, or they're going to, you know, worried that they're going to go to some sort of streaming service that's behind a paywall. Are they going to lose viewership? Are they going to, what? Netflix has more households than TV does. Netflix has more households than cable TV does around the world. This is going to be huge. Raw, WWE are going to blow up bigger than they have ever been. Mark my motherfucking words. We'll leave it there. Peace, love, and pizza. I am your boy, Seth Grimes, and we will catch you tonight as I do a reaction, review, recap, thoughts and feelings on the Raw debut on Netflix. I'm going to try to get that out tonight. If not, it'll be up right away tomorrow morning, and we'll catch you there. That video there was a real slobber knocker. Head on down to the comments, put a little barbecue sauce on the like button. And while you're there, I would subscribe so you don't miss any other videos. And leave a comment. Everybody's got a fucking comment.